Also marked the 20-year anniversary of when UND student Dru Sjodin was kidnapped and later found
Pay
dead.
attention to the man on the bench. He's been sitting there for 2 hours, not eating, not on a phone, just watching the entrance of a Victoria's Secret inside a shopping mall in Grand Forks, North Dakota. He watches women walk in. He watches them walk out. He waits. But what nobody in this mall knows is that this man has just been released from prison 6 months ago after spending 23 years behind bars for aggravated rape and attempted kidnapping. He is a level 3 sex offender, the highest classification in Minnesota law. His own family has already called the State Department of Corrections and told them they are afraid of what he will do. If you care about stories like this, subscribe now. You will want to follow this case all the way through. Nobody in this mall knows any of that. Not the staff, not security, not the young woman about to enter shift. Because in 2003, if you are a level 3 sex offender in Minnesota, you are invisible the moment you cross the border into North Dakota. There is no shared database. There is no alert. There is no system. There is just a man on a bench and a parking lot and a Saturday afternoon in November. Her name is Dru Sjodin. She is 22 years old. Dru's disappearance would become one of the most significant missing persons cases in Midwest history, not just because of what happened to her, but because of what her family refused to let her death mean nothing. If it weren't for the people who kept fighting long after the verdict, a predator's ability to vanish across a state line would still be a gap no law could close. Let's go back to the beginning. Dru Katrina Sjodin is born on September 26, 1981. In Minneapolis, Minnesota. She grows up in Pequot Lakes, a small lakeside community about 2.5 hours north of the city, the kind of place where everybody knows your name and your family, where the summers stretch long over the water and the winters come hard and early. Her mother is Linda, her father is Allan, and from the start, Dru is a kid who fills every room she walks into. She plays basketball, volleyball, and golf through high school. She is voted homecoming queen her senior year at Pequot Lakes High School. She graduates in the spring of 2000 with a clarity of purpose that most people twice her age haven't found. And she is an artist. That part of her isn't decorative. It is structural. She sees the world through a frame. She wants to document it. She enrolls at the University of North Dakota in Grand Forks. She starts in design. By the time she reaches her senior year, she has pivoted to photojournalism. The shift makes complete sense to the people who know her. She isn't interested in making beautiful things for their own sake. She wants to tell stories. At UND, Dru joins the Gamma Phi Beta sorority. She works with underprivileged teenagers through the organization. She interns through the university's aviation program. She takes on not one but 2 part-time jobs. A shift position at the Victoria's Secret inside the Columbia Mall and nights at the El Rocco nightclub. She is managing a full academic load, 2 jobs, a sorority, and a new relationship, all at once. That relationship is with Chris Lang. They are close enough that Saturday phone calls are routine, close enough that if she doesn't call, he notices. On Saturday, November 22, 2003, Dru leaves for the Columbia Mall. Her shift at Victoria's Secret runs until 4 p.m. She stays afterward to shop. At around 4:15, she is documented at Marshall Field's department store, where she buys a new purse. There is also a shopping bag she's carrying, with her mother's Christmas gift inside. She does not know a man has been watching the entrance of her store for 2 hours. At approximately 5 p.m., Dru exits the Columbia Mall. She walks toward her car, a 1994 Oldsmobile Cutlass parked in the lot. As she crosses the pavement, she pulls out her phone and calls Chris Lang. The call is normal, routine. Chris hears her voice and it is fine. Nothing in her tone signals anything is wrong. They talk for several minutes, somewhere between 4 and 10 minutes, depending on the account. Then her tone shifts. She says, "Okay. The call ends. Chris assumes the signal dropped. It's 2003. Cell service drops all the time. He is not alarmed. He should have been. 5:10 p.m., November 22, 2003. Dru Sjodin is gone. Her Oldsmobile Cutlass sits in the Columbia Mall parking lot. Her wallet is inside, cash, driver's license, everything. The shopping bag from Marshall Fields is there too, with her mother's Christmas gift still inside. The only thing missing is Dru and her cell phone. Investigators will find something else near the car, a knife sheath on the ground, suggesting that whatever happened fast and happened with a weapon. 8 p.m., November 22, 2003. Chris Lang's phone rings. It is Dru's number. He picks up. There is no voice on the line, only static. And the sound of digits being pressed on a keypad, random, rhythmic, like a phone being jostled in a pocket or a bag. He calls back. Nothing. When Dru fails to appear at the El Rocco nightclub for her evening shift, her friends and Chris contact the Grand Forks Police Department. Allan Sjodin, her father, is reached by phone. His daughter is missing, and he needs to be there. He drives to Grand Forks through the night. 2 a.m., November 23, 2003. Allan arrives. 15 hours have passed since Dru was last seen. He goes to her car first. He finds what was left behind, the cash, the ID, the Christmas gift for Linda, still in the bag. Law enforcement pivots immediately. This is not a runaway. This is not a dropped call and a misunderstanding. The knife sheath tells them everything they need to know about what happened in that parking lot. It's now November 25th, 3 days since Dru disappeared. A shoe is discovered under a bypass near Crookston, Minnesota, a small city about 75 miles west of Grand Forks, across the state line. Investigators begin triangulating. Cell tower data from the 8 p.m. call has been pointing west of Grand Forks. The shoe is physical confirmation. Whoever took Dru moved her across the state line. The search geography shifts. Now here is what was happening in the 6 months before this. The year is 1974. Alfonso Rodriguez Jr., born February 18, 1953, is convicted of multiple counts of aggravated rape in Minnesota. He is 21 years old. He goes to prison. He comes out. He offends again. In 1980, he attempts to kidnap a woman named Ardis Whalen, tries to force her into his car. She resists. He stabs her. He is sentenced to 23 years in a Minnesota correctional facility. He serves every day of it. On May 1, 2003, Alfonso Rodriguez Jr. walks out of prison. He is 50 years old. He is classified as a Level 3 sex offender, the highest risk designation under Minnesota law, reserved for individuals considered most likely to re-offend. He moves in with his mother in Crookston, Minnesota. His own family contacts the Minnesota Department of Corrections. They tell the department they are afraid. They say Rodriguez lacks the guidance and the structure to survive in the community without offending again. They ask for help. The department does not seek civil commitment, the legal mechanism that would have kept Rodriguez in a treatment facility after his release, rather than returning him to the general public. Rodriguez himself tells psychologists he is anxious about being free. He says he wants to be, in his own words, locked up but not locked up. He is telling them he cannot manage his own impulses. Nobody acts on it. 6 months pass. Rodriguez begins making trips east. He frequents the Columbia Mall in Grand Forks, across the state line in North Dakota. He is a Level 3 sex offender in Minnesota, but in North Dakota, that information exists in no database any officer or security guard can access. He is invisible. He sits in the food court. He watches. On November 22nd, he claims to investigators that he spent part of the afternoon watching a movie at the mall's theater. Investigators check the listings. The film he names was not playing that day. His alibi is gone. December 1st, 2003, 9 days after Dru's disappearance. Alfonso Rodriguez Jr. is arrested on federal kidnapping charges. The federal jurisdictional hook is critical. Because he transported Dru across a state line, this falls under the Federal Kidnapping Act, 18 U.S.C., Section 1201A. 1. That means federal prosecution, and federal prosecution means the government can seek the death penalty, a sentencing option that exists under neither North Dakota nor Minnesota law. Investigators execute a search warrant on Rodriguez's vehicle, a 2002 Mercury Sable. What they find is catastrophic. Blood spatter in the rear seat. A knife in the trunk. The knife matches the sheath found in the Columbia Mall parking lot on the night Dru disappeared, December 3, 2003. 11 days since Dru was last seen. Approximately 1,700 volunteers report to search headquarters in the Grand Forks and Crookston corridor. Major Mike Fonder coordinates the effort, assigning volunteer groups to specific geographical sectors, including the area along County Road 7 south of the mall. They search in the cold. They search systematically. They cover ground, but the ground keeps it secret through the winter. North Dakota and Minnesota in November and December are buried. Deep snow drifts cover everything. The temperature drops below what volunteers can sustain for long. The searches continue through the weeks and months after Rodriguez's arrest, but Dru is not found. It's now spring, 2004. The snow begins to melt. April 17th, 2004. 147 days after Dru Sjodin disappeared. Her remains are discovered in a drainage ditch, a remote ravine west of Crookston, Minnesota. The location becomes accessible only as the drifts pull back. She is found face down. Her hands are tied behind her back with rope. A rope is tied around her neck. Remnants of a plastic bag are found beneath the rope. Her cell phone is found nearby, the phone that transmitted only static when Chris Lang answered it that night in November. The forensic picture is devastating. The autopsy identifies multiple potential causes of death: a 5.5-inch slash wound to the neck, asphyxiation, and exposure. Hair and fiber samples recovered from her body are matched to Rodriguez and to his vehicle. The case that began with a knife sheath in a mall parking lot ends with a forensic match in a Minnesota ravine. The trial of United States versus Alfonso Rodriguez Jr. becomes the first federal death penalty case in North Dakota in over a century. U.S. District Judge Ralph R. Erickson presides. The defense team, led by Richard Ney and Robert Hoy, moves for a change of venue. The pre-trial publicity in Grand Forks is overwhelming. Judge Erickson denies the out-of-state transfer but moves the trial 80 miles south to Fargo. Jury selection takes 21 days. The court distributes a 121-question form to a pool of 590 potential jurors. Every person who will decide Alfonso Rodriguez's fate is examined not just for bias, but for whether they can sit with the evidence this case contains and still reason clearly. The prosecution is led by U.S. Attorney Dru Wrigley. His case rests on 3 pillars: the DNA evidence from Rodriguez's vehicle, the physical evidence connecting Rodriguez's knife to the sheath at the crime scene, and the demolished alibi, the movie that wasn't playing. August 30th, 2006. The jury deliberates for approximately 1.5 days. Alfonso Rodriguez Jr. is convicted of kidnapping resulting in death. The penalty phase proceeds in 2 stages: eligibility and selection. The jury finds that the government proves 3 of the 4 statutory aggravating factors: death during a kidnapping, prior felony convictions involving serious bodily injury, and commission of the offense in an especially heinous, cruel, or depraved manner. The 4th factor, substantial planning and premeditation, is not found. 25 mitigating factors are identified by the jury. On September 22, 2006, the jury recommends a sentence of death. Dru's family fills the courtroom in pink, her favorite color. Dru Wrigley addresses the court after sentencing, and the defense, Richard Ney. Rodriguez is formally sentenced to death on February 8, 2007. The sentence holds for over a decade. Then, in 2021, Judge Erickson vacates the death sentence, ruling that testimony from the original medical examiner was misleading and that the defense failed to present evidence of Rodriguez's documented PTSD and mental disabilities. In 2023, the Biden administration's Department of Justice announces it will no longer seek the death penalty for Rodriguez. He is resentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The last legal chapter in Dru Sjodin's case closes not with an execution, but with a cell in a federal facility, and with the knowledge that a predator designated as the highest possible risk will never walk through another mall. But here is what has to be said about this case. Alfonso Rodriguez Jr. was not an unknown man when he sat down on that bench in the Columbia Mall. He was not a mystery. He was not someone who slipped through the cracks because his history was unknowable. He was known. His criminal history stretched back 30 years. His psychological evaluations flagged his impulse control. His own family called the state and said, "We are afraid of what this man will do." He told psychologists himself that he needed to be locked up. He told them he couldn't manage it. The Minnesota Department of Corrections had the legal authority to seek civil commitment, to keep him in a treatment facility after his prison term rather than returning him to the community with standard-level supervision. They did not do it. And Rodriguez knew something else, that the moment he crossed the border into North Dakota, he disappeared from every registry, every database, every system designed to track men like him. He was a Level 3 offender in Minnesota. In North Dakota, he was nobody. There was no unified national database. There was no alert system. There was no mechanism for a police officer, a mall security guard, or any member of the public in North Dakota to type a name and learn what was sitting on that bench. In 2003, that was not an oversight. It was standard operating procedure across the entire United States. After Dru, that changes. Linda Walker, Dru's mother, becomes the person who refuses to let the system off the hook. She and Senator Maria Cantwell co-sponsor federal legislation that takes direct aim at the gap that Rodriguez exploited. The bill's formal name is the Dru Sjodin National Sex Offender Public Website Act, Dru's Law. Senator Cantwell, speaking in July 2006. On July 27, 2006, President George W. Bush signs the Adam Walsh Child Protection and Safety Act into law. Dru's Law is codified inside it. The act establishes the Dru Sjodin National Sex Offender Public Website, NSOPW, the first unified portal for accessing sex offender registry data across all 50 states, all U.S. territories, and all tribal lands simultaneously. For the first time in American history, a citizen anywhere in the country can search a single database and find registered offenders regardless of which state they are currently living in. The law goes further. It creates a 3-tier national classification system based on the nature of an offender's crime, not on subjective state-by-state risk assessments that vary wildly. Tier 3 offenders, the most dangerous designation, are required to update their whereabouts every 3 months for the rest of their lives. Failing to register becomes a federal crime. The gap that allowed Alfonso Rodriguez to cross a border and become invisible is closed. It is not enough. Linda Walker knows it is not enough. She keeps going. Through organizations including Fight Like a Girl, she provides self-defense training for young people across the country. She travels. She speaks. She does not stop. Because Dru's Law is a beginning, not a finish line. The registry exists now. The mandate exists. But the implementation is imperfect, the resources are uneven, and the system that failed to keep Rodriguez off the street, the civil commitment mechanism, the post-release supervision, the mental health infrastructure, those systems remain underfunded and under-examined. A database tells you where a man is registered. It does not guarantee anyone is paying attention. What Dru Sjodin's case built is a floor, a minimum, an acknowledgement written into federal law that a registered predator in one state is a registered predator in every state, and that the public has the right to know. The woman who went to work on a Saturday afternoon in November, who bought a new purse and tucked her mother's Christmas gift under her arm, who made a phone call on the way to her car because she had plans and a life and a senior year of photojournalism left to finish. That woman did not need to be a symbol. She needed to make it to her car. The law bears her name because she didn't, and because her mother decided that was not the end of the story. If this story stayed with you, like the video, subscribe and share it with someone. Stories like this deserve to be remembered. In 2006, the White House signs Dru's law into federal statute, establishing the National Sex Offender Database that connects all 50 states for the first time. The Dru Sjodin National Sex Offender public website goes live, the first tool of its kind in American history, built from a gap that cost one young woman her future and a mother her daughter, and that no one who knew about it ever had to let exist as long as it did. I break down real cases like this every week, so you stay informed and aware. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe now, and I will see you in the next one.